What's up, buddy? How you doing? You excited to see my buddy Mud? Hey, Mud. Give me a headbutt. That's my buddy Mud. Guys, you might know, if you look around the background of my room, which is currently in a state of disarray, I am selling stuff. Guys, come on over to Whatnot. Buy my video games. I gotta get this crap out of here. I'm a long-time collector of video games. And, I was collecting back when it was kind of reasonable to collect, you know? I wasn't paying crazy amounts for these games. I go look at my, eBay history. For instance, Panzer Dragoon Saga is now a $1,000 game. I look at my PayPal history. I paid $160 for it back, 20 years ago. Now, I've paid a lot for some games over the years, but I'd say the majority of my collection, I'm not paying the crazy prices you see today, except for some things that have been on my list for a long time. One thing, though, that I guess I should have invested more in is the sealed video game market. These are video games that have never been opened. Oh my God. Now, just from buying games over the years, I do have some sealed games. I actually have a good amount of sealed Game Boy Advance games, some of which are worth some money. I have one sealed Pokemon game that at some point I should probably get graded and sell. Right now, the market's in an interesting place. I don't know how many of you guys follow the sealed game market. Obviously, I think it must have been during COVID. It was like 3 years ago. Somebody sold a sealed Super Mario 64 at auction. And this is Heritage Auctions. This is the biggest auction house for this stuff. Someone sold a sealed Super Mario 64 for over $1 million. As we can see, we're going to go through some of these prices. This is an auction that just wrapped up. This was their big auction for the month of May. Yeah, May. And what's interesting is there's some things where you go, okay. I mean, here's why I'm interested. I want to sell some of my stuff. I want some of the stuff I own to be worth money. So I've been looking at the sealed game market. I've never gotten a video game graded. I don't own a single graded video game, but I've always said, well, I'm going to keep an eye on this market because maybe I'll send in some of my sealed games to get graded and flip them, or maybe there's a sealed game. There's a couple sealed games I would maybe buy if I saw a good price on them. So I keep an eye on this market. And what you see, if you know the video game market, what you see is a mix of, well, I'll be very honest. The people buying this stuff don't seem to know very much about video games. It's very weird. Okay, if you've been in the hobby for a long time and you know video games, you know what is truly rare, you know what is truly hard to find. When that sealed Mario went for $1 million, everybody who knows anything about video games said, oh, what a bad buy. Because even though it says, oh, well, this is the first time we've ever seen one in this condition, or what, that means there's more out there, guys. Toys R Us had boxes and boxes of Super Mario 64. You don't think there's a guy somewhere closed his video game store, we always see these stories of somebody let their stock rot in the back of a warehouse or in a storage unit, and then years later, he's got a box of 100 of these. Not rare at all. So let's just take a look at some of these prices so you get an idea, excuse me, of what's going on in the video game market. So like I said, the Mario that sold for $1 million was like perfect condition. Right away, looking at this one, it's an 85 from VGA, which is actually not a bad score, but we can see right here, if you look at the shrink wrap, there's like a big mark on the box. I don't know what that's about. It's a little crushed on the sides. This is not, perfect condition, but it is a sealed Mario 64. If a perfect Mario 64 is worth $1 million, you think a slightly dinged Mario 64 is $12,000? No. We've clearly come a long way since the $1 million Mario. The $1 million Mario was an insane outlier, bid up by a moron. There's some people who say, oh, it's just money laundering or whatever else. No, I think what happened was a rich moron thought that this was a truly rare game and paid an insane amount of money for it. We're now back down to earth, but I don't even think 12 grand for this is still insane. I don't get it. Mario 64, obviously an important game, but again, just the sheer numbers of these that are out there, there's plenty of sealed ones you're going to find. Let's see what the top items from the auction were. These are actually, I guess, organized by, well, yeah, let's go price highest first. I guess we already did that. So the top item that sold was a CGC 9.4 Zelda. Now, it says no Rev A. What that means is second printings of Zelda somewhere on the box would have the words REVA, Revision A, which meant it was a later production. If it doesn't have Rev A, that means it's the very first release of Zelda that came out, before they did a second print run. Okay, first ever Zelda, 9.4 condition, which again is not the top grade. A lot of guys want the 9.8. 9.8 is considered, the premium grade. Sometimes you'll see something above a 9.8, but very rarely. It usually has to be a brand new game. 9.4 is not bad. A 9.4 sealed Zelda for $300,000 is nutty. I think that's nutty. I obviously wish I had held on to a sealed Zelda all these years to flip it for $300K. I do not have a sealed Zelda. Would I say this is a good investment based on what I know? Here's the thing about the world of collectibles. It's all the greater fool theory, right? So I can't say it's a bad idea unless, if somebody else is willing to pay more for it down the line, then it was a good idea. Zelda's one of these franchises where if we really want to think about it, okay, your top nerd collectible is going to be something like a Superman #1, Action Comics #1. Everybody knows Superman. Every comic fan knows Superman. Every comic fan loves Superman. When you talk about video games, who does everybody know? Mario, Zelda, couple others, but Zelda is kind of your cream of the crop fantasy franchise. It's the first ever Zelda. I don't know the exact population for these, and again, they made a lot of them. It's not like Action Comics where it went through a, World War II or whatever, and whatever one survived in the back of a closet, it was a phenom. And that's why I would say, in Action Comics, I think typically sells, what did the last one sell for, like 2 million? That's a true rarity. How many Action Comics #1s remain? Okay, maybe less than 100. Zeldas? I got a couple Zeldas in my closet. They're not sealed, but 300K seems... But again, greater fool theory. Is there someone out there who loves Zelda so much, and is Zelda going to be one of these storied franchises? We're getting a Zelda movie. That someday, somebody who says they need to have the Ultimate Zelda collection, they need a sealed Zelda. If a Mario could go for $1 million, getting a Zelda for $300,000, we might look back on this someday and go, that was a good deal. As of right now, I'd say $300,000 for this. I wouldn't. Obviously I wouldn't pay because I don't have that kind of money. But even if I had the money and I was going to make an investment, I'd buy some fucking stocks. Here's what I think is crazy. 9.8 Pokemon, sealed Sandshrew, red text, so whatever. That's just their way of knowing it's the first release of Pokemon, $100,000 for a 9.8. Pokemon is another game that was released in such numbers. Millions of these are out there. The Pokemon, the Pokemon frenzy is real, but here's what I don't understand about this. $100,000 for this. I see actually rare Pokemon items go up for auction. And it was on Heritage Auctions a couple months ago. They had a Game Boy that was like a magazine prize in Japan. Only 100 of that Game Boy were ever made. Went for like $5,000. So here's what I don't get. If a one of 100 Game Boy, there's only 100 of them in the world, goes for $5,000. How does a copy of the most common Pokemon game go for $100K? There's another one I would say. The Pokemon frenzy is at an all-time high, and it's gonna come back down to earth. People seem to have this idea in their head. I honestly don't even think, maybe I'm crazy, I think Zelda as a brand has more staying power than Pokemon. Pokemon is a series that has failed to evolve. Kids are latching on to new stuff. We got Pal World. We got other franchises. Kids are playing Fortnite. They're not playing Pokemon. Obviously I'm crazy. Kids are collecting the cards. Look, it's popular, but you have to assume that Pokemon is going to be this brand that, again, is like a Mario, like a Zelda, like a Mickey Mouse. Yeah, it'll be there. It'll still be a top franchise, but you got to hope that the next generation is just as excited about it as everybody else. And $100,000 is a big risk to take. I don't agree. Some of the top prices you're going to see here, I don't understand. How does a 9.8 blue get you 106? A 9.9 red gets you 93. Is red more common? Red went for less than blue. I guess whoever bought this already had a blue. We also had a Super Mario 3. See, if I was going to have to choose, if you gave me $100,000 and said I had to buy one of these two things... See, I was going to say Mario 3, but now I think about it, I would get the Pokemon, actually. Because that's the first game in the series. Mario 3, it's a great game, but it's not the first game in the series. It's got the better box art, but I would go for the first appearance. How did an Ice Climber sell for 57,000 for fucking Ice Climber? It's a hang tab. It's not even a sticker seal. If you guys don't know, the first ever NES games were sealed with a sticker on top. This just is not the sticker seal. This has a regular shrink wrap, so it's not even the first version of the game, and nobody cares about Ice Climber at all. This is not a franchise anyone cares about. This is only going to people who collect the NES black box games. This is one, okay, now this is one I wish was not $50,000. Probably one of my favorite video games of all time. If there's ever a day I'm a bajillionaire, maybe I would buy it. Well, but again, this one makes no sense to me. Chrono Trigger is a fantastic game. One of the best Super Nintendo games of all time. I would say probably the best Super Nintendo game of all time. It's my favorite Super Nintendo game, sure. But Chrono Trigger is not a franchise. Okay? When you get the first appearance of Superman, when you get the first appearance of Pokemon, whatever else, new fans of Pokemon and Superman and all that stuff are popping up all the time. Okay? But go to a young kid and go, how do you feel about the Chrono Trigger franchise? They don't give a shit. So you're investing in a depreciating asset. That's $52K that over time, people are going to care less and less and less about Chrono Trigger until eventually it's just a footnote in history. It was a good Super Nintendo game that got a shitty sequel and everybody forgot about it. Paying for that is if it's just something you want to have, sure, as an investment, terrible idea. Final Fantasy is an example of not the worst idea. Again, I'd rather get the original Final Fantasy on the NES first appearance. But it is a franchise which is still exciting. It has the MMO. People, you would make much more sense if you're looking at this as an investment to get the Final Fantasy instead of the Chrono Trigger. Here's another item. And that's what you got. Okay, so there's some guys, that's the interesting thing about this. If you're talking about, I just want to spend money to get a fancy thing, fine. But a lot of the guys who are buying this stuff are clearly buying it as an investment for the future. They think this stuff's going to appreciate in value. The thing is, the stuff they're buying, I got to tell them, it's going down. We've seen it going down. We saw the $1 Million Mario. You're never getting a $1 Million Mario again. Look at this. An original piece of Donkey, or what do you call it? Super Mario 64 artwork. This guy put up a bunch of his original art. It's all terrible. This is terrible, by the way. This was not drawn by anyone actually involved with the game itself. This was drawn by a guy who worked in Nintendo of America's marketing department who had to create little illustrations for brochures and strategy guides. It was a piece of art from the actual game, production artwork, something. This is leftover marketing material. You paid $27,000 for this? It's not even I've seen the box art. I've seen the original box art sell for big money, but a production photo from a pamphlet, no good. Elemental Gearboard Assassin's case. I have to hope this went to somebody who's just always wanted one of these. I don't know if you guys even know what the hell this is. But there used to be this company called Working Designs, run by an insane man. And at one of the E3s, it was probably E3 like 2006. No, it must have been earlier. It's a PS1 game, E3 1999. They had a contest to play Elemental Gearbolt, a game none of you have ever heard of. And if you did good enough, they gave out 5 of these Assassin's cases, which was just a stock. I think this is a plastic briefcase. This is not actual metal, with the logo of the game on it. And inside is a gun that they basically just spray painted gold. Not an official Namco item, and a gold memory card. This is cute. It's a cute piece of video game history. If you're a fan of Elemental Gearbolt, if you're a PS1 collector, but again, not something that was ever going to go up in price. Over time, the number of people who are going to care about an Elemental Gearbolt Assassin's case will dwindle. TMNT number 2 for 23. You know what? This is where we're getting a little more reasonable. Investing in franchises like Turtles or whatever, prices of these could come up. Original Ocarina of Time, 9.8 for 20,000. This makes way more sense to me than a Mario 64 for whatever the hell it was. That makes way more sense. 20,000 for Zelda makes way more sense than $1 million for Mario. Ocarina of Time is one of those games a lot of people like. I never got it, but yeah, I understand that price at least. Magical Chase, this is just something who likes turbo graphics collectors, okay. This is something I wish I had. I love collecting consoles, but I'm not paying $16,000. Okay, but again, this I feel is this is rarer. The Pokemon Yellow Game Boy for $16,000 seems to me like a better buy than just a random copy of Pokemon for 93. I don't get it. I know it's more iconic, the actual game, but this is rarer and more exciting. We are starting to see Japanese games in here. Unopened Mario Brothers. This is another obvious thing that when everybody started buying graded games, I should have just took a trip to Japan and started buying shit up. Okay, 17,000. I get it. The only thing is, how do you prove this is unopened? Because I don't believe that Japanese games are sealed in any way. I believe they were just boxes on the shelf. First edition Nintendo Power in a 9.6, 17,000. I don't know. Again, Nintendo Power's dead magazine. It's a little bit of a piece of history, but that's a big buy. That's a big buy, sir. NVIDIA TNT engineering kit. No idea what the fuck that is. Now, again, we got a lot of results here. I want to see if I can find the stuff that I was considering bidding on. Here's more of this guy's original art. His art is bad. What did you pay for this? This sucks. $10,000 you paid for the cover art to Gun Force? Complete waste of money. This is worth less than $1,000. Absolute throwing your money away. Sealed Pikachu N64 for $10,000. Like, sealed Halo. Early production, not even first run. 10,000, way too much money. You're crazy. Here we have a sealed. Wait, is this actually sealed? It's a later production sealed, but it is a sealed Mario. You're going to see a lot of fighting over this. This is going to be the thing that the big-time game collectors, everybody has to have their sealed Mario. It's kind of like how the comic collectors, like, let's be real. Amazing Fantasy number 15, first appearance of Spider-Man. It's not rare. It's just very desirable. There's a lot of copies. People forget, Spider-Man came out in, what, the 60s? So there's a lot more copies of that than Action Comics, but they've all been bought up by collectors. This is your Amazing Fantasy 15. It's a thing that's not that rare. There's a lot of sealed Mario Brothers floating around, especially late production copies, but everybody who collects is going to want one. Everyone who collects seriously. I want this sealed Mega Man too, but that's just me. I love that box art. Interesting items here. The Mega Man on Game Gear. You never see that. That is actually rare. So paying $8K for it. Oh! Very fucking interesting. So this was one of the few items I had said, maybe I'll put in some bids, and I said, you know what? I'm in no position to be bidding on sealed video games right now. Last time I saw a sealed Ninja 5.0, and this, for those of you who don't know, this is one of the best Game Boy Advance games, hands down. It's fucking fantastic. But this is something, again, it's not a franchise. This only appeals to Game Boy Advance collectors. I'm a big-time Game Boy Advance collector. It's one of the few games I have 2 copies. Cartridge only. I don't have the box. I don't have the instruction manual. It's one of the few games I never found a complete copy of. And it's getting to the point where I might end up paying $900 for a copy on eBay if I see one that's in good condition. So I saw a sealed one about a year ago, and I felt stupid not bidding on it because it was a sealed one for like $800. And I said, as stupid as that is, here's the way my collecting works. I never want to spend $800 on a video game, but there's certain games that I've been trying to get a copy of them for 10 years, and the amount of time I've wasted looking at eBay listings, it's actually become a losing cost proposition. If I just buy one, the amount of money I will save trying to find one affordably, it will pay for itself. So I would pay $800 for a nice condition copy of this. This is a 10. You don't see this. This means it's in very perfect condition. But again, the last time I saw a sealed one, I want to say it was a 9.4, 9.8. It actually went for like $900, the price of an open copy. So I said this one, I mean, it is a 10, but it might only go for like, you know, again, $900, $1,000. $6,250. Interesting. I don't know what to think about this. I'd say if you're a completionist and you're really trying to complete a Game Boy Advance collection and you want what is possible, there's 2 games I would consider the rarest games on the console that I know of, and it's this and it's Pocky and Rocky with Becky, both of which I own the cartridge and I do not own the box and manual, and it drives me nuts. So this is one of the 2 grails on the system I consider if you're into rarity. But $6,250. I gotta say this: you're never gonna sell this to anybody else for that price. That's a wild price. Again, this is not a franchise. It's not going anywhere. It's a beloved game. I believe it did recently get a re-release on the Switch from Limited Run Games. But the only other person you could ever sell this to would be an idiot Game Boy Advance collector. And as an idiot Game Boy Advance collector, I'm not paying $62.50 for Ninja 5.0. I can't imagine. If I had $62.50 again, I'm going to buy a Pokemon. I'm going to buy something memorable, something that would actually maybe improve in price. Now, the last thing I want to bring up, if I can find it, is I was watching my good friend Alpha Investments. Reserved Investments. And he's not actually my friend. We've never talked, but I like his channel. And what he pointed out was that the Saturn games went for disturbingly low prices compared to the rest of the market, which is really interesting. I think this goes to show you that the people who are buying the sealed games are not like gamers. It's just investors. Mostly, it's investors who go, I want Mario, I want Zelda, I want Pokemon, I want recognizable brands that are going to go up in price. I want to be the guy who bought Action Comics #1 back when it was $10,000, sat on it for 10 years, and then felt like a genius. That's a lot of what we're seeing. And these guys, they only know the Nintendo, the Pokemon, the big blatant franchises. So stuff like the Sega Saturn, clearly they're sleeping. 9.8 Crypt Killer, not a great game, but $275. Think about, this game is as old as these games we're seeing sell for $20,000. And 9.8 is the second highest score you're going to see. You occasionally see a 9.9, you never see a 10. 275, insanely low. Dragon Force, a beloved, and again, this is the same company that put out that stupid Gunbolt case we saw with the gold Joy-Con. $875. I mean, it is a 9.0, which is a low grade, and you can see on the back, I think there's a big dent in the case there, but that's very low for one of the most beloved Saturn games. The big ones here, one of these two games is terrible. Shining Wisdom is a terrible game. Nobody should be paying, it is rare, but nobody should be paying $16.25 for it. It's one of the worst games ever made. Look up reviews, it's terrible. As Reserve Investments mentioned, and guys, look up his video, Reserve Investments. He's a very interesting guy talking about this stuff. First House of the Dead, that is a franchise. This has had movies. Now, the arcade game is the original game, but this is the first ever port. It's on a Sega home system, 1750. There is a lot of potential there. If House of the Dead ever comes back as a franchise, you know, that's not a terrible price, especially for a 9.8 sealed. Shining Force, again, 1750, one of the greatest RPGs on the Saturn. We saw, if Chrono Trigger is 50,000, how is a Shining Force, what is that, 1/25th of the price, $2,000? Compared to the Chrono Trigger we saw, because it has the Nintendo tax on it, because everybody only wants Nintendo. Resident Evil on the Saturn, it wasn't native to the Saturn, it was a PlayStation game to begin with, but still, original franchise. It's the first Resident Evil. Less than $2,000. This is crazy. This I probably should have. This I would have bid on. I would have bid on this. If I had known this auction was going on, Magic Knight Ray Earth sealed. Is it sealed? Sealed. And a 9.6 went for $2,400. Guys, this is one of the rarest Saturn games. I think it might even be the last Sega Saturn game that came out. To put this in perspective, again, remember I was talking about you watch a game long enough and eventually you just lose your mind. You go, fuck it, I'm just buying it so I can stop thinking about it. During COVID, when prices were up, and maybe I overpaid at the time, I paid $800 for a copy of Magic Knight Ray Earth just to say, fuck it, I don't want to think about it anymore. It's actually held its value. I think it's worth like $900 now. I haven't lost value on it, but it is one of those games that I finally said, I just want the Magic Knight Ray Earth. If a normal copy of the game goes for $900, how does a brand new sealed copy go for a little over double? I would have bid $2,500 on this, and not felt too bad about it. This is, again, one of the Saturn Grails, one of the Saturn games that, if you're a Sega Saturn collector, you're not going to see it very often. And for $2,500, I think that's a steal. And as he pointed out, this makes no sense. I would have maybe considered bidding on this as well. Pendragoon Saga. This is the Grail. This is the most sought-after Sega Saturn game. It always has been. 4-disc RPG. Like I said, I bought my copy in 2010, I don't know, for $160. And back then I said, I can't believe I'm paying $160 for a Saturn game. Right now on eBay it goes for about $1,100. $1,100. Open. This is a sealed copy of the great, what is pretty well known, I don't know if greatest, but most sought after crown jewel of any Sega Saturn collection. Sold for 4 times what you'd pay for a loose copy. Seems like a bargain. I agree with reserved investments on there. Guys, I'm going to plug his channel real quick, because you should subscribe to Sean over at Reserved Investments. If you're at all interested in collectibles and whatever else. And the best part about this guy is, unlike all these other guys who tell you, buy it all, buy every Pokemon card, buy every video game. Most of what he says is you're all nuts and you're all going to lose all your money. So if you want a guy to tell you all these people are insane and they're paying way too much money for this stuff, Sean from Reserved Investments, you're going to love this guy. I love this guy. Look at this guy. Here he is talking about, why are you paying $40,000 for a Jabba the Hutt action playset?
Welcome back to Reserved Investment.
Hello. Hello, Sean. Tell me about the Jabba the Hutt.
Anything in this auction. Obviously, I would have never even bidded on a piece like this.
I just find this stuff fascinating. He talks about how the toy market is going nuts, but nobody understands that, like, hey, man, the longer you keep this thing in storage, the packaging starts to turn yellow, the glue starts to fall apart, okay? It might be rated a 90 or a 9.5 or whatever the fuck, but you're taking a very risky investment assuming that the terrible packaging materials used to make the Jabba the Hutt playset are not going to fall apart over time. So anyway, guys, I want to pump my I love this guy, Sean, over at Reserve Investments. Check out his channel. If you guys want to buy some trash, come on over to Whatnot. I got to get rid of some of these video games, whatever else. But wild, man, wild, this auction. Obviously, is there anything I could have afforded? That's the last thing I want to check. What was the cheapest shit? Is there anything I would have been on in this auction? Last thing I want to check. Price. Oh, wait, this is with the Sega Saturn filter. Price lowest first. What were the dogs of the auction? It was the Crypt Killer. A sealed Crypt Killer was the lowest thing in the auction. An X Granada for 500. No, I need a Chicky, boys, but I really want a copy of this game. I don't need a sealed one, though, and I'm definitely not paying $700 for a sealed copy of Chicky, boys. If anyone out there has a copy of Chicky, boys, let me know, because here, I'll show you guys. This is one of those. I really wish that's as far as my video game collecting goes. One of my big regrets is that I only ever collected Super Nintendo games, and for some reason the Sega Genesis I just was not paying attention, and I didn't realize how many great Sega Genesis games I had missed out on that I wish I had bought back when they were for. I had a couple, but it's the Chicky boys. Now show them flying. Yeah. This looks awesome. I think it's 2 players why it's Chicky boys. Someone else can be the other Chicky boy. Here we go, the flying. Yeah! Get him! Am I retarded? Am I retarded? This is the kind of thing I think looks cool. I just go, this looks cool. He's just a guy with a sword, magic. This was the kind of video game when I was a kid. If I had had a copy of this as a kid, I would have thought it was the best video game, because this was exactly what I like. Running around with a sword, collecting coins, going to the shop, buying new abilities. I'm gonna check eBay right now, see if I can get a cheap copy of Chicky boys. I'm gonna figure it out. Bye, guys. Have fun.